Hey, what's good my broskies? Welcome back to the Brosims channel. As you guys already know, the new WAD update dropped, bringing with it the new Hamburg map, the BF109 G14, the BF109 K4, the ME262, WAD's first jet aircraft, and the legendary Flying Fortress B17 heavy bomber. There's so much new content to cover, so make sure to join our broski community by smashing that subscribe button and turning those notifications on so you know when I go live for events. Lastly, join our Discord server and get connected with the bros. In this video, we'll be reviewing probably the most anticipated bomber in the game, the B17. Everything else will be covered in later videos, so make sure to stick around for those. I'm going to start off by giving you my first impressions, what my initial thoughts were when spawning into the aircraft for the first time, what it felt like, how I feel about it. I'll then be giving you the specifications of the aircraft, its cost, its payload, gunner positions and armaments, durability, speed, everything you need to know about flying this plane. Then I'll move on to tactics, how to use this aircraft to get the most out of your bombing runs, how to stay alive even when your wing is shot off, how to use your gunners effectively, how to land your bombs on target, even at crazy high altitudes. Lastly, I'll give you my final thoughts, what I think of the plane overall, and help you determine if this plane is right for you. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. The plane costs 10,000 gold, but you'll need all the previous American bombers in the tree. This can be quite expensive as the B-24 is another 10,000 gold. But once the pay hurdle is out of the way, you finally have the B-17. You can upgrade its payload and choose from 3 different skins, the default green, a desert camo, and a silver one. Choose your loadout and spawn into Hamburg. It's an air start, so that makes things pretty easy. All you have to worry about is getting to the target and the flag. The plane is quite noticeably sluggish and pretty slow. It's an easy target for ME262s or BF109 K4s, but you are heavily armed, so at least you'll put up a fight. I'll talk more about its specifications later in the video. The inside of the aircraft is extremely detailed. Even on low graphics, the co-pilot and other gunners have the best models out of all the previous aircraft. Not to mention, the B-17 is fully modeled. All the rooms are open and heavily detailed. This really adds to the immersion, especially if co-op is added to bomber crews. I think WAD should consider this because all of the gunner positions are usable by the player. This makes finding the position you need to access difficult and time consuming, and it'd be really nice to have real players who can access those guns. Overall, the plane is incredibly detailed and a joy to fly. It's definitely the best bombing experience you can get in Gunship sequel. Alright, moving on, let's talk about specifications. The plane cruises at around 250 to 300 miles per hour, but get this, it does not break apart until almost 700 miles per hour. Do what you will with this information, but if you need to escape some pesky 109s or even an ME262, just nose down and start praying because the speedometer stops working at 500 miles per hour. Anyways, let's talk about guns, because that's something this plane does not lack. You have a forward-facing twin 50 cal turret in the front, plus 2 side 50 cal machine guns, but they are extremely limited range and are pretty much useless. But the turret, you have pretty good range with in the front. You'll then have a top ball turret and a bottom ball turret, each with twin 50 cals, and they both have around like 360 degrees, although the vertical on the top ball turret is a little limited. But in the mid part of the fuselage, you actually have another 50 cal machine gunner who can actually aim at a higher angle than the top ball turret can. But it's really only effective for aircraft flying directly over the bomber itself because its horizontal range is quite limited. But anyways, there's also 2 50 cal machine gunners in the fuselage aiming over the wings. And finally, the rear twin 50 cal turret, who is inevitably going to be yeeted from the aircraft when you're shot down. Now, I do need to mention that if you're using the top ball turret, be careful not to shoot your elevator off or horizontal stabilizer. You can accidentally shoot yourself down if you're not careful, but you can hit the higher part of the vertical stabilizer and be alright. But anything really low, like the elevator flaps or anything like that, you're going to shoot yourself down. So be careful with that. Alright, enough about guns, let's move on to the payload. You're going to have 3 options. You can either carry 72 100-pound bombs, 36 250-pound bombs, or 2500-pound bombs, which will give you a total of 10,000 pounds of bombs. This is my preferred option because it gives you the most pounds of explosives, although more bombs can prove more useful if you want to hit more targets. However, I did notice that the buildings seem to be quite durable, so I'd probably recommend the more dense bombs. As for the durability of the aircraft, it's pretty hard to say. I will say though that the fuselages on the bombers are pretty much indestructible, so there's a good chance you'll survive the first pass from the front unless they hit your engines or wings. The aircraft can take a lot of hits from lower caliber rounds, but when you're going against 30mm, there's only so many you can eat up, and it only takes a few well-placed shots to instantly down your aircraft. The wings seem quite vulnerable, which is odd, as the B-24's wings seem to be made out of vibranium, but the B-17 can maybe take 4 to 8 30mm rounds concentrated on one wing before it undoubtedly blasts off. The tail also seems to be quite vulnerable, as only 4 to 8 30mm will annihilate your rear, leaving you plummeting back towards the earth. Or will it? This is where tactics and skill comes into play. WAD is not a perfect game. The physics are a bit off. Even though the plane may not be the most structurally sound, the aircraft is incredibly survivable. When your wings get blasted off, nose down, rudder into your good wing, turn into it, and try to stabilize the plane, you're going to have a pretty good success rate with that. When both wings get blasted off, consider yourself lucky. You don't really need engines or wings, just the American dream. I'll be posting a stream highlight video soon where you can witness all these events. Alright, so there's a few things you should be made aware of before flying the B-17. The flak can actually kill you, and I learned that the hard way because my P-51 escort actually got shot by the flak, and I was kind of surprised. I honestly thought the flak was for show, but no, there's actually flak turrets at the bottom of Hamburg that are shooting at you constantly. So make sure you stay at high altitudes where it's most likely going to miss. It also makes incoming German fighters harder to reach you because they actually spawn much lower than you are. Also, look for contour trails if your graphics are not too low. That's one of the best ways to spot aircraft now. Also, be aware that the heavy flak and even spotlights will give away your position. Try to fly with an escort or even with the other B-17 bombers that spawn on the map, such as the AI ones, or even if there's other players, they're good to stick with as well. That way you'll blend in and have more firepower returning at the opponent. Now, one cheeky thing you can do is when you're in a pinch and need to escape, nose down, full throttle, and like I said earlier, the plane can go like 700 miles per hour, and it can probably even go a little faster from what I've heard, before ripping. Use it to your advantage to escape aircraft and let the AI gunners take care of the rest. Alright, so overall opinion of the plane, it's pretty cool. Definitely one of the most detailed planes in the game. All the gunner stations can be used and there's plenty to look at inside. The bomber is also very good, and with the addition of Hamburg, I'd say quite useful and even fun to fly. I'd highly recommend it if you're looking for the bomber experience, but it's quite pricey, so keep that in mind. Alright broskies, as I expected, a new update just dropped where they completely changed the B-24 and ME-262. I'm kind of glad I didn't do the ME-262 review yet, but they did change it to where the B-24 can't fly without wings anymore, from what I heard. I didn't quite test it yet, but you might not be able to survive your wing popping off. But either way, the plane's still quite survivable, and it's a really fun bomber to fly, so if you don't have it yet, and you want to get a cool looking bomber, and one that can do a lot of damage, B-17 might be it. But until next time, I'll see you in the next video, broskies.